So just think of this as another way to write the same type of equation. You'll notice that it does not have a B or a C. It has an H and a K. And as we've done in the past, when you have something inside parentheses, it moves it left and right, okay? It moves it left and right, opposite of how you would think it would move it. So you'll notice when it said x minus 2 here in the parentheses, it moved it right. And then when it has x plus 3, it moved it left. So it moves it opposite of how you would think. You'll notice that in the standard form, this is a minus here, all right? A minus. And so it's always going to be the opposite of what you think it's going to be when you're talking about that H value, all right? You can have both things happening. You can have it moving left and right and up and down. And you can see that inside, it moved it right 2 places and it moved it down 3. So you'll see that vertex shifted from the origin, 0, 0. It moved left 2 and then it moved down 3. And so that's what vertex form is going to help us do. Instead of having to calculate the vertex form actually gives it to us, kind of hands it to us. The standard form of vertex is A times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. All right? So let's look at what all of these stand for. Why do we like it? You can very easily find your axis and your vertex when it is in standard form. All right? Your A still tells you your width and direction, but the H now tells you the value of your axis and the X value of your vertex. The K now tells you the Y value of your vertex. So when you have it in vertex form, you don't have to solve for your axis or your vertex. You actually already have that. The only thing you have to solve for when it is vertex form is your y-intercept. All right? So the A still tells us the width and the direction. It still tells us if it's narrow or broad. It still tells us if it's pointing up or down. The H now tells us the axis, and it also tells us the X value of the vertex. The K tells us the Y value of the vertex. All right? So you can have the same 2 equations written 2 different ways. All right? Same 2 functions written in standard form or in vertex form. All right? So let's look at what happens. This is identical with the A. The A is identical in standard form and in vertex form. If it is positive, it goes up. If it's negative, it goes down. If the absolute value is greater than 1, it's going to be narrow. If the absolute value is less than 1, it is going to be wide. Negative H is the X value of the vertex. Remember, your formula already has a minus in it. So you'll notice that this guy right here is a negative H. Negative H is the X value of the vertex. H causes the parabola to shift left and right. Negative H will shift it right. Positive H will shift it left. K is the Y value of your vertex. You'll notice that it is not negated, so whatever the K is the value you're going to use. It moves it up and down. Negative moves it down. Positive moves it up. Listen to this last statement. K is not your Y-intercept. All right, in standard form, you don't have to solve for y-intercept. It's just handed to you. But when you are in vertex form, this is the only one you have to solve for. All right, so in vertex form, you have to solve for your y-intercept. That K does not represent your y-intercept. Same graph. You can see your vertex now is -2, -3, so you know your H and K value. A is still positive. It points up, so we know this is positive. The formula for the vertex is going to be your H and your K. And then we're going to talk about equation, but we will be able to then pull the equation from these. So you can now see H and K, which before we actually couldn't see that. The thing we don't automatically see in our equation here is your y-intercept. So you'll notice that's not even mentioned here because it's not part of your vertex form equation. All right, let's look at the back page of your handout. The back page, these are in vertex form. We are going to do 5 together. All right, so first let's look at this graph here. My A value is 1. If you do not see an A value, It is a 1. My h value is also 1. It is not negative 1. It is positive 1 because my h is already after. So for h, you're going to do the opposite of what you think. This shows a -1, so your h is going to be 1. My k here is 4. So let's see what happens when I try to find my vertex, my axis, and all that good stuff. So for axis, my axis is just going to be x equals h. That's what's going to happen here. Remember, it's going to be the opposite. So if you need to write negative h there, you can. It's going to be the opposite of what you think. So in this case, my axis is going to happen at x equals positive 1. That's where my axis is. I do not have to solve for it. It's going to be right here at positive 1. My vertex. My vertex is going to be hk. Remember, it's the opposite of what you see there. So in this case, my vertex is going to be positive 1, positive 4. I don't have to solve for that. Positive 1, positive 4, and I can put that point right there. Positive 1, positive 4. My y-intercept is what I have to solve for. So for y-intercept for vertex form, I have to plug in a 0. It is going to be 0 and then the y value when you plug it in. So I'm going to take this equation. It's x minus 1. So I'm going to say 0 minus 1 squared plus 4. You have to do order of operations. 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So my y-intercept here is going to be 0, 5. And I am going to plot that point. Now you'll notice my y-intercept is above my vertex. All right. Which is how it should be. My a is positive, so this guy should be pointing up. To find one more point, I'm just going to mirror that y-intercept. So my y-intercept is 1 away from my axis. So I'm going to move 1 away on the other side and mirror that point. And now I have those 3 points and I can graph this. So I'm going to graph this parabola. So go ahead and try number 6. Find your axis, find your vertex, find your y-intercept, and then graph it.